Oh,
And you're sharing your screen, so you might want to stop sharing. Okay. I think, yep, we're live now. Sorry, everyone. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're on and ready now.
almost ready.
That seems to be how we roll, though. So thank you for your patience.
I think we had one flawless start. Good.
Yeah. Oh, there's Colleen. Hi, Colleen. Oh.
Charlie had to help me.
Is that Charlie's hand? Hi, Charlie. Sorry, everyone. We had a little bit of technical difficulty.
Uh-oh. Is that me? What's wrong there? Is that me? Do I have it open somewhere else? Are you guys there?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, Debbie.
Oh, good, because I can't see anything anymore and I couldn't hear you guys. Okay, well, I guess we're live. And since I'm supposed to be, well, sort of, kind of, the host, I wish everyone a warm welcome on this, for us, for me, kind of late evening already. Yeah, we're here with, well, let me introduce myself. Almost forgot that. My name is Toni Weel. I'm here with Sarah from Virtuous Unicorns and with Colleen, our amazing Colleen from Freak Sense. I think most people know about her. The topic for today is, we came up with that because I've heard from so many people about past traumas. So I was like, let's see what the three of us can come up with. So that is what I would like to talk about, and with the help from my two beautiful friends, I look forward to get this going. So Sarah, please do introduce yourself.
I'm Sarah from Virtuous Unicorns. My mom and I do the podcast and the blog posts that we do put together, and we're just on this adventure to try to find our way back to how we're really supposed to be living and how to hold the light and bring more light to this earth.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Now, Colleen, it's your turn. Well, does Colleen actually need an introduction? Yeah, let's do it.
You know what? I don't have anything that I've never done this before, but like, who am I? What am I? You know what? We're here to just like Sarah just said, to bring in the light. I'm here to find the light, and I'm here to share the light. So this is a journey for me, and it's a beautiful journey. It has a lot of ups and downs, and I'm excited to share all of that with everyone that's interested in the same type of journey, which is rising higher into consciousness. Yeah, so that's what Charlie and I have embarked on, an epic adventure, and we just want to share that with as many people as want to. So that's what we do. Charlie's the speaker and I'm the feeler, so this will be fun. This is new for me.
Oh, well, I know you always have a lot to say, so and a lot of great insights. Actually, the part of my introduction was nothing more but my name, but I think I should explain a little bit more. I'm well, you could call it a health counselor, what they call a regenerative detox specialist. So we go with the people I get to talk to. We go over everything in life, everything that is needed to heal. And of course, we start usually with, what is the diet? But when it comes to it, and when you learn everything that is acidic to the body, it is all the stress and the traumas are acidic to the body too. And I have to say that is what my biggest struggle is that all these things that happened in the past keep coming up. And I learned that so many people are dealing with that. And from you, Colleen and Charlie, I learned of another insight into how we deal with the traumas. But I also heard from Monique. I did actually the very first podcast I did was with Monique. And she was like, well, there's karma in our life that we need to pay off, and we get through that, and then it's over and done with. And sometimes I wonder, okay, how much karma do I need to pay off before I really feel that I overcame the traumas that happened in my life, and those little triggers. There's very little is necessary for it to all come back. It's like somehow you kind of store it somewhere, and there it is. And I know, Colleen, you have a pretty good insight on that, so I would like to hear that. And you know what is so interesting now? You are actually the star of the show because you're the only one on video. And
I
you
was
look
noticing.
you look absolutely beautiful in that blue.
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
Well, you know, you mentioned karma, and instantly, pun intended, because I believe that karma is instant. And I think that what we experience is a program. We program ourselves, or we've been programmed. If we're not conscious of the program, others are doing it, which we're aware of now because the cabal has been programming us since day one. Those that were running the world. And we know very little about ourselves as human beings, for the most part, but I think that they've spent their entire thousands of years understanding how to program human beings. And if you know anything about hypnotism, or you know anything about how people can be programmed, they absolutely can be programmed, whether you call it training or brainwashing or hypnosis or black magic spells, whatever you want to use. But we have been, and we are susceptible to that. And especially when we're in certain frequencies, as some people are aware of, that everything is a frequency, everything around us is a frequency, and it's just slowed down into a frequency, into a solid. So Charlie does a better job at explaining that than I do, but if everything is frequency, and when we're in a beta wave frequency, which is the first one that everything's a little just, we're easily programmed in that, and they know that. So that's why they keep us in that frequency if they can. And it's a program that they run 24/7, whether it's television or radio, but and we end up doing it to ourselves. So we end up programming ourselves with their information. It's bizarre, but I believe that karma is instant, and but what it is that we become so brainwashed that we, as far as trauma goes, I think that we keep reliving it over and over again because we don't know how to release it. But I do believe I've lived through the trauma, and I've through most of my life, I think I've, how would you say, distracted myself from it and always wanted to help others. And I think there's a lot of us out there that do that. And that's a tricky little ego thing that happens. So you learn something and you want to share it right away and you want to help others, but you don't do the work yourself. And I was definitely one of those people. And it's so much easier to help somebody else than it is to look at yourself and to do the work. And because you don't even sometimes know what the work is or what that means. And I wasn't able to do any of that until I learned to surrender to God, and even to learn what God was for me. So as far as the healing of the traumas, there could be other layers that I'm unaware of, but it's amazing how this journey in the last maybe 5 years of intense research and going through the rabbit hole and doing all of this understanding of what is really around us. And it's amazing how a lot of that trauma starts just peeling away. Whereas I felt like just talking about, things that were close to my heart, I would cry like a baby because my pain body was so big and I just feel so much. But doing all of this work has just really strengthened me. Now that I have a knowing, it's the knowing, I think, that has really, really taken me to a new level of healing. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys.
It does. It really does. When you were talking about the frequencies, it was kind of making me start to think about, when I am kind of in a lower frequency, I start, seeing things in other people that really bother me. And then at first I would always try to, well, why do they do this? Why do they act that way? Why do they keep something this way or treat this way or look this way? But then as I've been working through this too, I'm realizing that it's a mirror image that I'm seeing of something I don't like about myself. And I can't always figure out what it is, but it does feel like it's the frequencies that it pulls you to that. Is it teaching you something about yourself and we just don't know how to see it? But as I'm kind of going more on this journey, I do see it. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's something I really don't like about myself. And that's why seeing them do that really bothers me. And so when you're talking about the frequencies, it is kind of that way. So, and I especially know it now when I am more on a lower frequency, when I am more tired or I am, anything like that, I start seeing things that, bother me about, I don't know, the way someone keeps an animal or the way someone keeps their home. But really it's just stuff within me that's kind of surfacing. And so it is interesting. And I still have no idea exactly what it all is I'm seeing within myself. But to just even start to acknowledge that it is you is it feels a little bit freeing too. So yeah, I mean, I still don't even know exactly. So like I said, I'm on this journey too. But
yeah, to keep a mirror in front of you it's not always the easy part. I do struggle with I've been going through a lot of abuse in childhood and teenage years and actually throughout my adult life. And you wonder why that is and what is happening. But I live my life and I feel happy, and I learned a lot thanks to Charlie and Colleen about God, what it means, what it is, and see a lot of things completely different. And then I feel really balanced, and something makes a remark, very personal remark, and all of a sudden, all that what somebody in my family said to me, it's like everything came back, and I thought it was long gone and buried. It was over. I had dealt with it. I was okay with it. It was all good. And then you realize it's not. And that is actually the part that I see where so many people struggle with. And I don't have the answers for that. I don't even have the answer for me as in how to deal with that.
Yeah, I can only tell you, of course, what I experienced, but honestly, when I can understand now how effed up people are out there. Like Sarah, you were talking about how people, it bugs you the way people do this or that, whether they, and I'm experiencing this right now. And next door, we have some neighbors who are not caring for their dogs, and the female is pregnant, and she just had babies this morning, and she actually went into our other property and she had them there. And I've been feeding the dogs, and my anger towards these people because they're just ignorant, right? They're just ignorant of the fact of what it takes to care for something outside of yourself, you know, properly. And a part of me is a little bit angry, but I used to get really angry, and not know how to deal with that. I was never a aggressive person, but you know, inside I would be fuming. But now I'm not, because I realized the level of programming that these people have had, for whatever reason, we've awakened to some of it, but these people haven't. So, you know, that saying, they know not what they do. I give them that as a, you know, let them off the hook a little bit, because they've been programmed so badly, especially here in Mexico. These people, these poor people, the level of programming is just, it's disgusting to me. And it's really hard, because the carnality of the humans around me is just, it's really, really hard to take, to be honest. You know, just they're so desensitized to the things around them that they don't even see when they're hurting anything around them anymore. Not all of them, of course, not all of the people around us, but for the majority, we're in an agricultural place. But it's very hard to watch the way they treat their animals. What was my point here? Understanding that these people have been brainwashed by this malevolent system. It helps me, because I see them as children, and not to discredit, you know, any of their growth, but honestly, they're, especially here around me, they're just children, and they really don't know what they're doing. If they knew better, I think they would do better, because I think in their heart they're really a lot better, or a lot more intelligent. So it's really, really challenging. But when it comes to the trauma that these people have suffered, it helps me to forgive them a little bit easier, because as we know in our lives, how we've suffered trauma, and on an ongoing basis, and then you become, these people that suffer the trauma, most of us become the perpetrators, where we're not even aware of how we're programmed, and we end up hurting those with our ego. We end up hurting our children, you know, with anger and manipulation, things like that we don't even realize we're doing. And then when we know better and we do better, we're able to see it in everybody else, and then it becomes you know, what do we do with that? We've done it too. Like Charlie and I, we look at each other and we're like, well, you know, we've come a long way. And then how do you manage dealing with everybody on different levels? As you rise, it becomes more of a gap between, you know, those who are really asleep. It's really challenging, because those who are really asleep are usually committing a lot of trauma on other people without realizing it. So yeah, it's something that we have to work on. And I don't want to become vile. I want to be violet, right? I want to be raising myself to that top chakra where everything is on a higher vibration. So, but I think it's quite easy to become vile. Shh, Kelly.
Yeah, it really can, especially when your frequency is low. And I mean, my frequency can change, you know, men and women both have cycles that they go through each month, but your cycle, if you've had not much sleep, people that are still working, I mean, I guess it really depends too, how deep you still are into the matrix too. I know a lot of people that are still trying to balance both worlds. So yeah, I mean, your frequency can really, I think, affect how you deal with your traumas too. And there are many different traumas that we could be talking about. I mean, you know, there's abuse, there's trauma from war, there could be trauma from car accidents or something you've done to somebody, or, you know, just things like that too. So, I mean, I think all of them are very delicate topics in different ways that, you know, you kind of go about dealing with them. But I really do think it does start with self-care and helping to raise your vibration and your frequency and your understanding. And of course, having a good faith with and strong relationship with God.
Yeah, what I see happening a lot with myself, I mean, I'm always the best example, but also with other people, is that we do have a lot of compassion for other people, a lot of understanding, how people are, just what Colleen was just explaining, you know, the understanding that she has with her neighbors. And but what happened with us is that it is not that easy for ourselves. And what I experience is that there's a lot of self-sabotage. And although I don't know why that is. Why is it so much easier to have the compassion for others and not for ourselves? Where does that fit in? Why do we have this? Because I know everything about self-sabotage, believe me.
Don't you think that's a program?
Yeah, absolutely. And because you were just saying that about programming and you know, but okay, yeah. I'm kind of lost for words because I've been talking today with my husband too about the programming that everybody has. And when you mentioned that, I was just thinking about, you know, even the things that were said to us in what we see as abuse. And as a child, I didn't even see that as an abuse, not even as a teenager. That came later when everybody was talking to me what kind of an abuse it was. Before that, I wasn't even aware of that. So I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. But you know, afterwards, after everything happened, yes, I did get sad, but that self-sabotage goes as an how do you say that, a red string or a red line through my life, and it can go fine for years, many years, and all of a sudden there is this little trigger. Yes, of course, it is programming. But how I think I put a post up on the website is like, I need to start a program to deprogram the programming. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yep. That's what our whole podcast wants to be about, is how do we, you know, deprogram in just our daily lives. Like, how do we like put one foot in front of the other now to try to get out from being this brainwashed?
Right. You know what I've been thinking? I think that if I focus my attention on being a virtuous person, and I think that naturally I've probably done that most of my life, but I know that I haven't been perfect at it for sure. And I know I've hurt people. So, but me focusing on being, and not for the sake of just being a virtuous person, you know, because there might be a reward built into it. It's because to me, my joy is to raise. I don't want to be at the mountaintop without everybody else. I don't want to be up there. Like, I can enjoy it, but I think to me it's like, but I want to help everybody else get up there. Exactly. So, right. And so it's like, wouldn't it be great if we're all up there and we could all see the same view and experience the same things? Because if somebody doesn't, I don't like it when someone doesn't have the same kind of abilities or not abilities, but resources that I might be able to have, or I'm not jealous anymore of other people having things, because I realize that I just have to do the work and then I can manifest my dreams. And I do believe that it's not the secret, but it's part of the secret. You know, it's like realizing how magic we really are and raising the vibration versus just wishing for something, or just it's actually I have to earn this, but I don't want to be alone when I get to the top. So I want to share that with everybody. And what was my point? What were we just talking about?
Being virtuous.
Being virtuous. So if I focus on those kind of things, on the positives, right? If I focus on the work that I need to do to raise myself to a place where I can become the regenerated man, woman. That's my goal. It's a bizarre thing to talk about because it's so new to all of us, but to be able to regenerate, you know, when you see the picture of Jesus and he's got that beautiful halo around him, we can have that. We have an aura. We all have an aura, but we don't know what color it is, right? When we're in a lower vibration and when we're down and when we're feeling traumatized and we're suffering, we don't have that glow, that beautiful glow that regenerates our being. So I want to get to that level where I am regenerating myself. I want to be magnetic. I want to be exactly what God created me to be. So that's my mission. And I want everyone else to get there too, because that's where we're all meant to be. And that's the God particle inside of us that wants to share all of that with each other, right? It's like, that's what we are. We're kind man. So kind woman. And so on that journey, if I'm focusing on all of those things, I don't even feel the traumas. I don't. So to me, it's like, if you focus on what you need to do, those other things, like people can say, well, you're just repressing that then, but I don't feel like I'm repressing it, because I feel like it's not even like, I could share all of my traumas with you, but I don't want to dump all of that on anybody's doorstep. I've dealt with them. So I guess maybe it would help others if we talk about our traumas, but then I don't want to get stuck in that trauma loop, you know, that so many people do when they go to therapy and they talk about, I have a friend who that's all she does is talk about her traumas. And it's like, she keeps them alive. They're so energetic, these traumas. She keeps them alive every day by talking about them. And I just think, oh, I don't want to do that. Right. How do you guys feel about that?
I believe that trauma can be, and like I said before, depending on what it is, but it can be, I envision it like either like a dark monster or a dark cloud. And that monster or cloud can get bigger the more you feed it. And at the same time, you don't want to, I mean, like, you don't want to act like it doesn't exist, but you also don't want to relive it all the time, like you were just saying. And it's almost like you also carry the anxiety around with you of, will this cloud pounce? Or maybe I should say a wave. How big is that wave when it comes? Is it going to be a big wave or not? So not only with trauma do you have that, but you also have an anxiety of, will this trauma ever grab me again? Will it get me? Or when will it get me? That kind of stuff. In my family, we deal more of traumas with the military, the war that is still going on. And, so it's always that anxiety of, will something trigger this trauma to come back? So you have your trauma and you have your anxiety that falls with your trauma. And, that's very hard on, how do you actually really get over that anxiety to try to make sure when that wave does come, it is a little wave. But we found ours in, serving. We serve animals, we serve neighbors, we serve our families. And, we just, each day, I don't know if that me echoing.
That was me.
Oh, okay, sorry. And to tell you the truth, I never knew God until you and Charlie. And it never made sense to me the way any religion ever taught it. Nothing ever made sense. And fortunately, my mother did not send me to Catholic school. And but I never knew him until you all, and started going through the Bible decodes. And I always wished that I knew it. So having that faith and really putting that faith in God and just literally casting your net to the right and making virtuous decisions is kind of like how we move forward in life. Sometimes they do come. Sometimes the wave is a little bit bigger than you want it to be, but you have that faith and you have that foundation that you can fall back on. And then you can just keep moving forward from that point. But that's how we kind of deal with our stuff.
Now, what I experienced actually is I started my fruitarian ways about the same time that I met Charlie and Colleen. And I was in a physically, mentally too, in a very bad shape. I had been very sick for 8 years, and I didn't even think I was going to make it till the end of the year that year. And was wondering how I should prepare. I was very depressed. Physically, I was bedridden. I was in a bad shape. And when I first met Dr. Morse, so I learned about different ways of eating, and started that right away. And I was already a vegan, so it was not the animal derived foods that were keeping me in a low frequency, but I wasn't there yet. And once I started with that all fruit, it was actually kind of a dark cloud that was lifted, and I felt the higher frequencies, and I started to feel better. But, and I hear this from so many people. To me, that meant that food was a big part of how we feel, how we think, how we act. More peaceful with the right foods in our body, a body that starts to heal. But there was then that one aspect that I mentioned before, that little trigger, and then I see myself going back or eat something. I'm not going back is not the right way to say it. It eats something that I should not eat. Make it like a cooked meal, or something that has too much fats or too much fats or proteins in it. And then you kind of feel yourself going into a spiral the wrong way. Every day knowing that, okay, tomorrow is another day. I'm not going to dwell on this, and I will do fine, and I know what's good for me. And then getting out of that, I can only call it a downward spiral. And you keep trying every day until you say enough is enough. And that is the part that despite all the listening to Dr. Morse and to Charlie and to you, Colleen, it's like it keeps happening. And I'm honest enough to share my struggles, because I know so many people have that the same way. And if that is from past traumas, always hearing you're not good enough, you cannot do anything, and always proving that you can. And now I don't have to prove anymore. And I do what I feel is good, but you still have that little thing. And it's like, not coming from ego, and going to the right, and feeling, be happy with the things that you do in life. And then there is still that one wrong food. And this is about, choices. And maybe I talk about it a little bit different than you guys do, because this is my experience, and because of all the people I talk to every day, come across the same thing. And now I'm like, okay, there is a certain action or understanding that we need to have to get out of this. So there comes the question, how do we do that? What would be I've seen it as like a dark voice. My first instinct is, well, that is the voice of God. Why am I going against God and make the wrong choice? Why do we do this? Is it part of the program? Is there something else going on where we cannot resist?
Well, that's the trickiest part, right? Is like, do we even know what it feels like to be without the ego running the show? Do we know what it feels like to be living a life out of the right hemisphere, out of the virtues? Do we even know what that feels like? The ego has been in control for so long, and it preys upon our weaknesses. And I make it sound like it's a monster, like Sarah had said, but left to itself, it's a scared little child, and it makes the wrong choices, and then it preys upon the other part of you because it wants to stay in control, because that's the only way it'll live. It's the only way it can survive, it thinks. And it's like I don't know how everybody else feels, but sometimes it is like being two separate people. It's like a schism, and you do have these voices in your head, and it's just yourself. But I talk to myself more than I used to, I think. But the ego is so tricky. It makes you think it's not running the show, but it is, for the most part. So as you begin to become aware, becoming the observer, and I used to read that all the time in all of these books, be the observer, and I had no idea what that felt like or what that meant, because all I did was observe other people, but then I judged through my ego. I was living in my ego. To be the observer is to actually observe the ego as well, which I didn't even realize that there was that component to us, right? I didn't realize that. So it's a journey for sure for all of us as we awaken to all of these things that we weren't even aware of. But what we're talking about, I think, ultimately is emotions are so freaking powerful. We talk about how the food is so important, and it is one of the first things we have to clean up. But honestly, something I think is more powerful than the food is the emotions. And that's a journey in itself. And each one of us has got a different path, because as astrologically, we're all created a little bit differently. We've got different energies and different intensities coming from different angles. So that's what makes us all unique and so beautiful. But it can be more challenging for one person to handle emotions than another person. And some people, it just, like water off a duck's back. It just, that comment just went right off of them and they didn't even get triggered. Whereas another person is just fully in tears and crying because somebody said something that, really offended them, and they're wounded because their pain body is so huge, and they're a mess. It's like some people just have a really hard time handling emotions, but I believe that emotions are so powerful. I've lived with them my whole life. I found out I'm a triple water sign, which I knew I always felt a lot, but I feel a lot. And I'm not more special than anybody else. And it can be a curse or it can be a blessing. And it depends on how you handle it. But I've realized that my depth of emotion has been, it's been used by my ego to keep me distracted. And now I'm aware of that as the observer, and I see how those things can keep me from being where I really want to be, which is high. I want to be a higher vibration. So the only way I can do that is if I watch my ego try to distract me, and then I say, I'm not going there anymore. You can't distract me with those emotions. I'm going to use those emotions for the betterment of me and everyone else, versus just being stuck in a pain body, because I know where that pain body takes me and I do not want to stay there anymore. That's a low vibration. And I can never get to where I want to go. I can never do that journey up that 33 step staircase to get to that, that crucifixion that Charlie talks about. I can't get there if I'm going to be stuck down in my Muladhara chakra, feeling all of the pain from my past. So it's like, no. When you watch all these movies and the decodes that we do, this journey that we're on, I really hope that people can understand and grasp it, because what a beautiful, and we've had so many comments from people just saying like, this has really helped them. So I know it works, and it works for us. So when we watch the Lord of the Rings and we watch all of these people go on their journey to balance their ego, right? Because ultimately we're trying to come into balance, and that's our main goal, is to not slay the left side, not to get rid of the ego, but to like you said, Sarah and Toni, to deprogram ourselves. And how do we do that? Well, I can only share what we're doing and how we've discovered what we need to do. And it's absolutely everybody else's journey to figure that out for themselves. But if we can help each other along the way, you know, it's like, well, try this. This might work. We've all been there where we've read so many books from the new age group. And I used to just be addicted to the new Deepak Chopra book or the new Wayne Dyer book. And I used to get them, and I didn't always read them fully, but I would get to the part, I'd just be like, well, that's really cool. What's next? It's like they never helped me because I never did the work. But also those books didn't really share the full truth. So it's like, you know that they're not completely telling everything that you need. You need all of the information to make that formula work. So we did what we did, and we realized we were idiots and we needed to find the truth. And so we started really researching from the ground floor up. And honestly, the stuff that Charlie's been able to go further than me, which kind of ticked me off a little bit because I was the emotional one. and he was able to, I think because he probably didn't have the same type of traumas that I did. And like we're talking about right now, how do we get rid of them? But learning and watching him, and strengthening myself versus being stuck in those pain bodies, and realizing that I had two choices and I could only have one master. And if I wasn't doing the virtues, that meant that I was being in the Luciferian world and I was allowing Satan, or the opposite of God, run my life. And I'm not doing that anymore. So that really strengthened me. Does anybody else have anything to say?
It's kind of funny when I watch you on the video. It's different from when you're talking, because right now it shows like you're still talking.
I'm just looking at Zoom.
Yeah, that's probably better. Yeah, it's you actually make a sense. It makes sense, like what we were talking about, keeping a mirror in front of you. It's like observe yourself as you look at a different person, and that actually makes sense to me. It clicks. It's I always struggled with like doing the work, and I was like, well, what work do I need to do? Because everything flows and everything happens, and I can see where God's message is and what I am supposed to do, and it all goes so easy. And yeah, it's the helping the people in helping my animals, because strangely enough, we all have a whole bunch of rescues. I was saying like how many cats, I rescued in the last 16 years and had them all in my house, including feral cats. And sometimes you wonder, why are you doing that? Why is it that you want to give so much to others, I chat with people, but also with animals? Is that, part of your pain? And you mentioned about the karma. I know I go from one topic to the other, but that's me. Like with karma is instant. Now, this is something I have to think about it again, because that means that something can happen right away and not later on. And I've seen a lot of karma happening, good, not so good, learning lessons. And there's always a lesson to learn, how we deal with everything, how we deal with what the topic was, the traumas and the choices that we make. Yeah.
So when we're in a certain frequency, though, like Sarah was talking about, when we're in that lower frequency, or any frequency, there's a momentum, right? There's a momentum going, and you're in that frequency. And I always look at it like it's a train. And depending on how much energy you've put into that frequency, it depends on how fast that frequency is moving. So if I'm going to switch to another frequency, if I raise myself, let's say, to it, and I'm doing the work and I'm happier that morning, I wake up and things are, I've decided I'm going to really just focus on being service to others, and I'm doing the work. And so my vibration rises and I'm like, yeah, this is great. I can do this. And I say some nice things to the animals. I say some nice things to Charlie. I say some nice things to my daughter. And then I'm feeling really good about myself, and the sun is shining, and there's a momentum that starts to come from all of that. And if I continue with that and I do even more, there's more momentum, but there's still a momentum from the previous frequency coming in, right? So maybe I stub my toe and I go, oh, I just stubbed my toe. How can it be such a great day if I just stub my toe? But then I have to remember there was a momentum. You can say it's karma that you're living out, but I don't believe in that, because that makes us a victim, and I'm not a victim. So for me, it's like, okay, I've had that momentum going. I'm feeling some of that retribution from the past frequency. It's okay. I just have to put more energy and focus into this forward motion going into the next frequency. So that's how I look at my life. If I'm not putting myself further into that new frequency, then I'm allowing that old frequency to rule me. And I don't want that. So does that make any sense at all?
Well, I'm thinking about your when you with your toe, if you stub your toe, and I'm trying to connect it because that made me think about the nasty fall I had 2 weeks ago. It's like, okay, what is the lesson I need to learn from this? And was I in a low frequency? Is there really a reason for everything? I always believed so. There's a reason for everything that happens in your life. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So now something happens to you that is rather unpleasant. I still deal with the consequences of that. So what was the lesson I needed to learn? I haven't figured out this one. Maybe slow down.
For me, it's just being conscious. How do
Okay.
if you're not being conscious,
I see what you mean. Yeah, being conscious, being aware, and okay, focus.
And it literally brought you to your knees.
Well, it did.
It did.
because you know what? We're always living in the past or the future, and to be in the now, to me, that's the message, that I can be hit over the head with a frying pan, and I realize God's telling me, be present right now. This is where the magic is happening right now. If I'm thinking, and this is where my stinking thinking comes in, because if I'm thinking, I'm generally thinking about things that happened in the past. Oh, when that person did that, and that's how I felt. And then I'm not in the now. I cannot feel the magic in this moment because I'm somewhere else. I've time traveled and I'm beating myself up, or I'm so distracted that I cannot see what's in front of me. And then that's when you stub your toe. That's when you do stuff like that, because it's to me, it's a message, whether it's from yourself or from God. It's like, come back to the now, come back to the magic right now.
Well, thank you. That is actually a good one.
Yeah, that's great.
I haven't thought about that. And when you say it's like being in the now, the very first time I heard that was from Eckhart Tolle. I still have the book. I've never read it, never got past the first chapter where he said, live in the now. But when I started thinking about it, it made so much sense, being in the now. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
And time goes so much slower when you're in the now. We've actually taken a weekend where we were completely unplugged from everything, and we were trying to be very present with each other. And it seemed like that was the longest weekend we ever had. So the more you can try to focus on the now and being present, to me, that's a way that we can truly slow down time.
Brilliant, right? And that's a gift. That's a gift. I love it. Being present in the now, and breathing helps. And I'm absolutely guilty of shallow breathing, because my program is to stay in fear. that's what my ego does. It wants me to stay in fear. And I'm trying to, like Jim Morrison, the Doors, he says, break on through to the other side. And that's what I want to do. I want to break on through from being that 10% fearful person into that 90%. 2 years ago, there is no way this conversation would be happening with us. There is no way I would be sitting here if I had not, done a lot of work to be here, because I was completely intimidated by any kind of public speaking. I realize I'm just talking into a computer right now, but there's lots of other people that are listening, and there is no way I would have been able to do this because I was so self-conscious and stuck in a program, a limiting program. And yeah, I'm just so thankful. Like Sarah said, it isn't that long for me that I've really come to know who God is. Like, I've always been on the peripheral side, looking and seeing other people talk about God and talk about their faith. And I was never one of them. I just had no idea what God was. I knew that it wasn't the BS that they're telling me, but now that I understand more, and I'm not even completely there yet where I understand it all, but it really helps me to self-actualize why I'm here, who I am, and all the questions that I've had my entire life are slowly getting answered, and some of them at quantum speeds. But to integrate all of that, it does take some time for me. But I'm being gentle with myself, because it's like, I don't have a timeline anymore. I'm not going to die at 80. And I don't think I'm going to die at 80. I actually have the possibility of living a lot longer. But even if I didn't, I do believe that the next life, I'm going to get it that much quicker. If I ended up, and Charlie says, don't even talk like that. And he's right. I shouldn't. But, it's like, for those of us who feel maybe we can't make it in this lifetime, it's like, I think we're going to get it a lot quicker next time, because we've done so much work and put so much more momentum into this, this stage of the adventure. So what do you guys have to say?
Yep. And if we don't make it in this meat suit, then we appear in another one, and maybe it'll be a walk-in or, something like that. You might not always just start out as a baby, or maybe you'll be born into a family that is already progressing along this path. And if we could only be fortunate enough to be born into a frugivore family and start out from a really young age, would be great.
Right?
Yeah, I think I like to stay in the now a little bit more than thinking about the next life.
Well, yes, for sure.
I definitely want to make it in this life, and learn more and understand more, and feel more. Until, well, I think about, what is it, 6-10 years ago, I wasn't even able to accept love. And now I can, but I missed out on that a lot for many, many years.
Well,
And
wow, what an adventure now to be able to, right, slowly integrate that allowance into your life.
it's amazing. I'm experienced that what all these teenagers and all these other people are already going through, but I kept it off. I couldn't accept it, and now I can. So I can't let go. And that is the living in the now, and seeing for what I am worth. And for myself, it's only to the little struggle of self-sabotage is there, and that is my thing that I absolutely want to work on more, doing more of the right things, taking the time to go out in nature and put my feet in the grass. It's and hug a tree. I have to find one first. Well, maybe I can hug my my little mango tree.
Absolutely, you can. And it's looking forward to it. I was just thinking, identifying with this, Sarah, you said the meat suit. I've always struggled with the whole physicality and identifying myself as what you see me as, right? A woman or a girl, and blonde hair, whatever, however people see me. I never understood because I couldn't see what they were seeing. I only could see them. So I didn't identify with myself in a physical form. I just felt what other people were feeling. So that was how I knew who I was just through them. Until I realized that there was a me and that I was special, just like everybody else was special, but I had to realize I was special to myself, and that I counted, I was worthy. Just growing up in the out there, the programs that are run, and in my family, for whatever reason, I didn't feel worthy. And I don't think my family felt worthy. So it was just something a program that we all ran. And looking at it now from where I'm standing, it just seems ridiculous. I would think it's ridiculous for anybody to have those feelings, but yet that's how I was. And Toni, you said that, you didn't really feel, you didn't allow yourself to feel love. And it's like, because we didn't really understand what love was. If you're not receiving true love, how can you know what that's supposed to feel like? It's like you don't. So how do you know how to process what's coming at you? It's like, well, you got to protect yourself, because whatever it is they're saying that they love you, it doesn't feel good. Most of those experiences that we've had as children, coming from, families that didn't know how to love properly, love didn't seem like something you really wanted to experience too much from them. So you had to protect yourself from it, right? So now as an adult, and knowing what we know, and then now trying to process all of that, allowing yourself to feel that love, like it's like being a brand new person. That's amazing. And allowing yourself. But so here's the word that really has been at the forefront of my mind recently is surrender. Number 19, surrender. It's so important to me, because I can't actually go anywhere in the raising of the frequencies if I don't surrender, because my ego wants to control, to keep me safe, right? That fearful little girl that didn't understand what anything was all about. The ego wants to keep me safe. But it just keeps me a prisoner. So knowing that I have to surrender all of those fears to God. And I don't even know what he does with them, but I'm just giving them to him. You just take all of that and you can do with it what you want. And I'm going to be free, because I know you want me to be free. I finally know that. I'm 57 this year, and I finally know that I deserve to be happy. So what a journey, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it is an amazing journey. And even so, the last few years, when you said it's the surrender, just before you said that, I was thinking about, I can finally let go. And I think letting go is also part of the letting go of the hurt. And that's where you can let love come in. And,
But you have to know you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because if you let go, you'll sabotage, because you'll want to pull it back, because, well, your ego will trick you into thinking that you're not going to be okay. You let this go, you're not going to be okay. Somebody's going to come in and hurt you. You watch, because I don't trust people. They're going to hurt you.
Yeah.
They have an agenda. And for the most part, it proves right. You look out there, and there's so many people that just, they're so traumatized that all they want to do is just get what, they need, and they're going to hurt you in the meantime. But honestly, to actually know that you're going to be okay, to get to that point where you're going to be okay, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, that's freedom.
And that's why on V for Vendetta, if anybody's seen that movie, please do if you haven't. But when Evie gets to that point where she actually surrenders, and she doesn't care whether she lives or dies in that moment, she just has that moment of surrender. Wow, I felt it. I just absolutely felt it. I was there with her, and I can't even explain, but I just knew in that moment that I had to get to where she was. I had to surrender everything and not care. And I am at that place. And part of this whole movement with the Q thing, and then all of the things that happened to us here with doing the truth movement, and then having the experience of people attacking us with the gun, and what that did to me. And then I saw the hero come out in me. I got angry at the people who were shooting. And but there was this fierceness that came out, and this protection that I wanted to protect my family. And I didn't care what happened to me. It was like, no, and this is wrong. This is wrong what's happening. But there's no way they're going to stop me. Nobody's going to stop me from doing what I need to do. And then I looked at myself and I went, you're really saying that? Like, you mean it? And I'm like, yeah, I totally mean it. So watching myself, again, being the observer, right? Because I can watch myself in ego and I can watch myself in non-ego. And wow, that's a movie in itself. Just watching yourself sometimes as you go through life. But yeah, the whole movement with the Q thing was really a growing time for me. And I'm grateful for it. Like, so yeah, I love it.
Get the full armor of God on you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think we all have those moments where we can go through that. We just have to be present to see it.
Yeah. In the now.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, that's a great movie. For sure. I was kind of taking a little bit of notes too when I forget which part we were talking about, but I also noticed too that if you are acknowledging when like a trauma is happening, and I'm speaking of like, say you said something wrong to your child, or you were a little bit harsh, or you said something you really regret or whatever. I've also noticed too that if you kind of like take back and you think about it and you observe why you did act that way, that opportunity will present again. And then you'll have a chance to maybe write it this time or respond in a different way. So if you are observing, you will realize that those opportunities can come up again for you or will come up again for you. So that way you can try to handle it a different way.
Absolutely. I always relate back to movies because I'm a big movie person, but in the Lord of the Rings, when they're carrying the one ring and it's so heavy and it's weighing on whoever was carrying it, Frodo. I look at my ego like that. It's like, it's so heavy. And it's like, if I'm in the ego for very much time, the momentum gets going and it just becomes, and you do and say things like, I mean, we're all aware of how nasty we can be when we're in ego, and I'm no different than anybody else. I've hurt people with the things I've said. And I can, like Charlie says, you wake up with your ego. And so every day that opportunity is there to be a horrible person or a really kind person. And it's possible to be either, depending on your choice, or like you said, in your trigger, if you're triggered or if you're tired or if you're, and for me, if it's, I'm hot and tired and then there's a combination of the dogs are barking and then suddenly, and there's a time issue or whatever, and then you can be triggered. And then you end up saying or doing something. But like you said, there's always an opportunity. The next moment you have the opportunity. We call it the you catastrophe, right? Where you can change all of that. The catastrophe happened. Now you can change it. So that's really important. And that's magic to me. That's the magical moment. You get to be able to you could relive it if you wanted, or you can just do it differently in the next moment. So yeah.
Yeah, and you can always too, I know a lot of us, as soon as we say something, it leaves our mouth, our ego's like, well, you can't apologize for saying that now, but you can absolutely go to them and hug them and say, I'm so sorry. And I didn't mean that. I don't know why I said that, or maybe I'm tired and I apologize for taking it out on you. But you can, in that moment, don't let your ego override you and take that opportunity and that chance to try to write it at that moment. And I mean, it is very hard to get to that point, but with practice, you really can. And I feel like I have come a long way, but boy, do I still have a long way to go. But it's just, being again present and realizing your actions too.
That's why we have to live to 1,000, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to learn so much more.
Right.
Now, when we talk, what you said, Sarah, about when you say something to your children and you feel it was wrong and you apologize for that. Now, what can we teach our children about this, how to deal with things? It's easy for us now because we learn so much about, the living in the now, the ego. But how do we teach our children?
I think by showing them your own understanding of yourself and realizing that, mom was wrong in this, and just like talking to them. I mean, and a lot of times that, children are smarter than we are, and they're the closest to God. They literally just came from him. So by talking to them and just letting them know that, mom was wrong in this, and, I did handle this wrong. And, I promise to try, next time this comes up, we'll handle it a different way. But, at the same time, I guess, depending on their age, they also need to learn too that, I mean, I have no idea what that situation might have been, but, to teach them maybe like a responsibility if something happened at that time. But you just letting them know that maybe I shouldn't have acted that way, and I do apologize. And next time this comes up, we'll work it out a different way together.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
truth though? Children live what they learn, or learn
Mhm.
what they live. So
Mhm.
whatever it is that you're doing, how many times for my parents used to smoke, and they would be like, you shouldn't smoke. And I'm like, but yeah, first of all, I think it's gross and I'm not going to, but why are you doing it?
Mhm.
And it's like, you should be teaching your children by living a certain way. And then that's how they learn to live. Otherwise, it's very confusing to them. And a lot of parents want to hide the truth of how they're feeling. I've always been, my children are now grown and having their own children. So for me, it's like, no matter what you taught them, they actually learned more from the way you were living your life. So I apologize to my children for that. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And if I'd known better, I would have done better. But, at least I know now, and I can share that with you. But, and my daughter has a little almost a 2-year-old. So it's the same thing. It's like he learns by observing us, and he sees and feels everything. So you cannot tell him the truth, but he's going to feel something's wrong, and then he's going to have to figure it out himself. So I think raising your, putting oil in your lamp and becoming the bright light is the way to teach somebody. And then as you're going through it, just like we're doing right now, having conversations with your children, they are so much smarter than we give them credit for. They really are. And like our 2-year-old, I call him ours because to me he's mine, but we just observing him, I'm just amazed, because I think I was traumatized too much to enjoy my own children. I was going through too much, MK Ultra bull crap, that I'm able to now just be the observer. And what a gift that is to be able to give that to the little toddlers here. Wow. But I don't know. What do you think, Toni? Yeah. Does any of that resonate?
Yeah, I thought I was always doing the right thing with my daughter. She disagrees, but I divorced her when I divorced her father when she was only 4 years old. And that was, she got, drawn in different directions and not in a good way. And recently I was talking with my husband about it, like, if I would have a child now, would I do things differently? And I always said no, I would do it the same as I did it then, because I felt I was doing the right thing. I was a person that didn't like authority much, being told what to do or following the mainstream guidelines. That was absolutely not me. I was a hippie at my soul. Nature, herbs, and kindness in animals, and so it's always been inside. But it was, yeah, and my daughter turned out as an absolutely great woman, very self-sufficient. She has a daughter now for a while, actually. And they both are doing good. But now lately, after everything that I learned actually in the last few years, I am like, yes, I would actually do it differently. Not really that much, but I would teach them the other things. And even way back, I wasn't going to send my child to school. Now, I was lucky that we could form what's called here a Waldorf school. So, and she went there from 4 years old until 16, I believe. Waldorf is Rudolf Steiner, and following his principles. So that was already a good thing in the things that she learned, which was not the same stuff that they learned on the other schools. Although, it was still the lies that couldn't come out yet. I'm sorry, but I see a question coming in from Diana.
I wanted to answer that one too.
Yeah.
Go. So the one where she says, do you think the situations that trigger us are better to avoid to protect our frequency?
Yes,
or
please.
better to embrace?
Yes, you can see that too.
Yeah, to practice the lessons. What did anybody else want to talk about that?
I was going to leave it up to you.
That's a really great question, because I can answer that for me. When I'm in a lower vibration, it's better to avoid those situations. And when I'm in a higher vibration, I think that you have more strength and you can probably take on some of those things. But Charlie would say the same thing. I think he said, but he would say, be very careful. Be very careful, because when we are in a lower vibration and we're vulnerable, it can take us down. And for me, it's best to avoid some of those things. But I don't want to use that as a crutch and always just be avoiding things. So, but I think it is best for me to avoid some of those things when I'm feeling vulnerable and I'm not really strong enough to handle them.
I think that's very well said. And because
little by little, right?
Yes.
Little increments, you can raise yourself. Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just gonna say that's very well said. That's exactly what it is too, is about your frequency. And then knowing yourself enough to know when you're in a higher frequency or a lower frequency too.
That's actually kind of interesting the way that you say that, because I was just thinking about that. It's like avoid the situation to protect the frequency. I don't do it consciously. I just sometimes I feel like, no, I'm not going to answer that now. I have to do that later. And so unconsciously, I'm already protecting myself, not being ready to do it at that time. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's wise. There's a wisdom that comes with that, right? As you always see, when I was younger, and I always heard about, as you age, you get wiser, and women are, to me, were so much more beautiful as they aged because they became so much more wiser. And I always resonated with older women. I like to be with, the older women who, because the younger ones, they were just beta wave, and that was too much emotion. It was just too much for me. I needed to stay away from that.
They have a grace about them.
Yes. Yes. And older, like grandparents and stuff. I just loved being with older grandparents. It was beautiful. Their energies were so good, and they were able to be in the now with you because,
Mhm.
as we realize, as we age, we can do that a little bit more. And life. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly was, those of us, and I don't mean me, but those of us who have to live in the matrix. They have to have a job where they go out into the world and be around people. That's hard, isn't it? That's a really tough situation to be in. It's a big challenge when you have to, if you aren't able to put your armor of God on every day and you have to go out there, you're so vulnerable. And that's when the left brain wants to take over. And that's when you're in ego most of the time. And then it's really hard to grow. So for me, I had to escape from that system. And it was really important that I did that. And it took me a long time. But when I met Charlie and we both just looked at each other, and somehow we knew that this was the partnership that we needed to make the moves that we needed to make. Because I just wasn't able to do any of this in that system. And I knew on an unconscious level that I had to get out. For me, it was, people said, "Oh, you're so brave to move to Mexico." And I just would look at them and I think, "You're so brave to stay here." I don't even know why you want to, but it was a challenge. Our life was, chaotic for a little while, but we figured shit out and we finally got to where we are now. And it's like, wow. But yeah, I really feel for people who have to stay in the system, because it is really hard to make those shifts, but not impossible. You have to make that room for yourself. And then again, there's people who are stuck with relationships. I say stuck, but they're challenged by relationships that are, very unhealthy, or they've gotten to a place where they're feeling really toxic with each other. That can be a really challenging thing too. And I know many people are in those situations, and whether it's not a significant other or it's just family relationships that are, toxic, that can be really challenging. And so, when you ask a question like, do you stay away from situations that trigger you? It's like, when you're living in the matrix, it could be every turn triggers you. So that's really challenging for a lot of people that haven't been able to get to where they can just leave that system, or that, I don't know what's a better word for that.
When I'm part of the matrix or dealing with that, because I do still work, and I really try hard. I do fortunately have a job where I can listen to stuff while I am working, and I do just try to listen to more higher vibrational stuff. I'm also very fortunate to where I do get to work from home. But still, just phone calls or the meetings and, things like that. It's literally like, I feel like when I'm getting a call or I'm preparing a meeting, it's literally taking a breath and putting a mask on to enter into this matrix world. And I'm genuinely nice to everyone I work with. But it is like I'm having to put myself into something that I'm not. And it's very tiring.
So then the question becomes, how do you bring the authentic self into each moment?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, this is also too why I don't ever really show my face either, because of my job. And so I don't know how to be part of their conversations or part of that work area, because I'm so mentally far away from that. I don't want to be part of all that matrix type environment. So yeah, and it's very it is difficult. It is tiring. And but we definitely do have a plan. We have a 5-year plan of be able to get out of it, and we're working toward it. But yeah, it is hard. The triggers are hard, and you can't avoid them. But how I, and even my mom when she was working, we would listen to podcasts. We would listen to books. We would, just do those kinds of things to try to help keep our frequency up while we're in the matrix.
Yeah, there's all sorts of tools, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to discover what works for you.
Absolutely.
Well, we have reached way over an hour already.
That was easy to do. If we are going to close, I was going to say one more other thing. And this is just some of the stuff that I try. I mean, like I said, I still have a very long journey to go, but these are some of the things that I do try each day, and that is try to be virtuous. Try to meditate, only if it's just for a few moments. If that's all I really do have, at least try to do that. Try to belly breathe whenever I can really think about it. And then eat well. I mean, when Toni touched on that, if you are eating the meat, dairy, and eggs, you tend to have more carnal thoughts and whatnot. And try your hardest to sleep. I mean, most of us have a lot of trouble sleeping, but try to do that and balance. But one of the other great things too is listening to shows like this, or Charlie and Colleen's, or Toni's channel, and then all the movies that they recommend. Those all do help keep balance within your life. And so those are just some of the good things. And make sure you're listening to good music, and maybe like the different types of the 432 hertz, that kind of stuff. And you just literally keep trying it every day with one foot in front of the other. Even if you take 10 steps back, as long as you take a couple of steps forward, I mean, you are moving through life, and hopefully moving through your traumas too.
Yeah, it's a journey, and it's actually a beautiful journey.
It
I
is.
mean, we have so many blessings with the connections that we have, the new connections that we now have on a Freak Sense World website, things that are possible there. And I think it is we have an amazing future.
We have an amazing family.
We do.
Look at our family. Holy catfish. Like I honestly, this is a dream come true to be able to have these beautiful people a part of my journey. You, Sarah, you, Toni, all of you beautiful people in the chat, and all of the people in the extended family. Like, honestly, like we are so blessed to have each other to do this.
There are some wonderful people in the chat, and everybody is so supportive of each other too. Oh,
that is actually what is so beautiful and so amazing. What I see when you are on the news feed on the website, it's not about drama. It's about lifting up each other. It's Amy is amazing with that.
Yes, she is.
Oh my gosh, what a warrior.
333.
Yeah, so we all have our part in this to make it a better world for everyone around us. It's not just a family, but it will extend, and it will rub off on others. Yeah,
absolutely.
So thank you, Sarah, for being here. Thank you so much, Colleen, for being here. It was amazing. I hope we can do this again.
This was like really short. This was so short.
I know. Thank you for inviting me. I have had such a great time with the both of you and everyone in the chat.
Yeah, and thank everyone for listening to us. And we did this now as a live show. We used to have it as a podcast that we could put up at any time, but it was like, let's do this live. I finally figured out how it works, so we might as well.
Great, that is great.
So everybody, thank you. I'm gonna end the stream now, and thank you so much. And
thank you, everyone.
Till the next time. Love you all.
Love you.
Have a wonderful week.
Yes.
Are you still there?
Yeah.